On tonight's CTV News, the aftermath of the 100-year weather event brings the Prime Minister to town and decisive action from the Council to remedy the flood risks. Welcome to CTV News, I'm Grant Mangan. The storm of the century has been and gone, leaving locals to pick up the pieces. For residents living in the Rolleston cluster, yesterday's waist-high water came as no surprise.
A state of devastation. Neighbours meeting on the street to compare damage, unsure of what's next.
I don't know what to do today because the place is a mess and just walking from one room to another.
Only small puddles remain, but yesterday was a different story. Carrick Street was one of the worst hit areas in Christchurch. Waist-high water blanketed the area, so deep residents could only view the damage from afar.
My life's in that place, my car, and just absolutely shattered. Can't believe it.
But it's a new day and the extent of the damage is just settling in.
Also you can see there where the water got up to.
As the storm hit, Annabelle Dixon and her husband rushed to evacuate their 2 children at 5 a.m.
We came out here, the water was level with the top deck, and then water started coming through the French doors, so we knew it was time to go, so we just picked the kids up literally in their pyjamas.
Saving most of the furniture before making a quick escape.
Managed to lift Lily's bed up. Sophia's bed, we haven't lifted it up, and also there is another bed under here, which is, as you can see the watermark where it's got up to.
But the sight of flooding isn't new to Carrick Street residents.
The City Council sent consultant engineers round to identify exactly the level it got to, and they marked it there as the 17th of the 6th, 2013, the flood level at that point, and you can see the difference there of the flooding that's gone to this time.
They've been left helpless over the past 3 years. The earthquake had sunk their land. Now they're hoping yesterday's once-in-a-century storm will be a wake-up call to authorities to help their situation.
Apparently, Sarah have said it's going to take 5 years to remediate. I simply cannot accept a 5-year lead time for something this disastrous. This is as bad as anything anywhere in the red zone. It's just phenomenal.
But as the press reports, the council believes red zoning neighbourhoods like the Rolleston cluster is a last resort.
But we need to move on with our lives. We just can't keep doing this. We need to be somewhere that's not going to flood and not have to worry about our house being ruined all the time.
Neighbours stopped us on the street. Michael Nottage had been told by EQC's opt-out team his land wasn't vulnerable to flooding.
Something needs to be done, and I've asked my house to be raised because we were that far off getting flooded, and they refused to do it.
But the water in the back of his car is evidence to prove just how badly his property floods. For the Dixon family, they're one of many who won't be returning home tonight and are strongly considering closing the door on their homes forever. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
Some of the city's worst-hit business owners also surveyed the damage to their shops today. This morning, the Prime Minister visited some of the businesses recovering. Marcus Gibbs reports.
Cleaning up after a wet few days, Shirley business owners hit hard in yesterday's massive flood, working to get this mess under control after the city's 2 major rivers broke their banks, soaking surrounding properties. It was a once-in-100-year event, which Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell says the city couldn't have predicted. Yesterday, the local bakery, along with surrounding shops, was swamped in a sea of flowing floodwater. Today, the land's been drained, but the clean-up is only just beginning.
Wow, what a mess, isn't it?
It is.
Poor things.
It's worse than the earthquake.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you poor things.
Prime Minister John Key was in Christchurch this morning to hear business owners' first-hand accounts of the disaster.
It's gone right down the back, right down the whole back of the bakery, through the chillers, through the freezers. The whole lot.
The devastating floodwater turned streets into rivers, flowing into homes and ruining businesses.
So all of this was underwater, up to your foot. So around here, so you see on your fridge here, there's a little bit of a mark. That's how high the water quite got up to in this place. So it was all on the fridge as well.
Earthquake Recovery Minister Jerry Brownlee was on hand to brief the Prime Minister, comparing the flood to last June when water levels also rose.
And so last time there was 5 houses that had water come into them. This time it'll be hundreds.
The water has caused millions of dollars of damage to the city. Homes and businesses have been hit hard. Shirley Bakery staff estimate they've lost thousands of dollars in sales and stock.
So in there and all around around here, just under everything's just going to have to be pulled out and cleaned.
Not really good when you have a bakery, is it?
Not good when you have a bakery, no, which a lot of the stock's going to have to be chucked out, so it's going to be a big loss.
The government is pledging to do anything it can for the city. Engineers are working on a solution to keep this major flooding disaster from happening again.
Look, overall, we'll just need to go and make an assessment of what we can do to make sure there's less likely to repeat. I mean, you can always have floods, and you can't 100% insulate yourself from natural events.
If the flood risk can't be mitigated, the question that will have to be asked is, will more areas of Christchurch have to be abandoned? Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The issue of flooding was one of the topics discussed on last week's Point of View programme here on CTV. I asked lawyer Duncan Webb if suburbs prone to flooding might be turned into red zones in the future.
I doubt we'll see red zones as a way of life, but what the council in particular is facing is a massive flood management problem. There is clearly a very significantly increased risk of flooding in some places. It is arguable that in some areas there are houses which should have been red zoned that weren't, and I'm thinking of some around the Dallington-Dudley Creek catchment area which are routinely flooding and flooding very seriously indeed. So, I mean, that's a real problem. When it comes to insurance, there's an interface between what counts, between the repairs being undertaken, between the building regulations and between the consenting process at council, which is very complex, and it's in the insurer's interest to minimise the cost of a repair, and raising a house up above flood risk levels can be very expensive, and so there's a motive on their part to find a repair solution which doesn't require a consent and doesn't require a foundation replacement, and therefore need only comply as much as before. But as any homeowner in a flood management area, particularly below the 50-year flood return level, I would say take very careful advice about the nature and extent of your repairs.
Christchurch City Council engineers are fast-tracking work on flood mitigation plans for the Flockton Street area, but the work is at least 2 years away. The aim is to present councillors with options for a decision by the end of this month. City leaders met this morning with council engineers. They discussed the work already underway to address increased flooding risk since the earthquakes and the implications of record rainfall in Christchurch this week. More than 50 homes in Flockton Street flooded again. The council has asked staff to fast-track work on possible flood mitigation options for the area, with a report to be prepared by the end of the month for the council to consider and push forward. Mayor Dalzell says addressing increased flooding risks continues to be a priority for the council. Minister Brownlee is supporting the move to fast-track work on mitigation options. After calling the case of an elderly woman left in limbo with her EQC repairs a despicable photo opportunity by the Labour Party, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Minister has apologised.
85-year-old Dot Boyd lives in her badly damaged Aranui home. 3 years on from the earthquake, she's only just received her repair money from EQC. Last week, Labour leader David Cunliffe brought attention to her story by visiting her home and arguing the government could be doing more to help those in Dot Boyd's position. But in Parliament, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Minister, Jerry Brownlee, criticised Labour's decision to speak out, calling it a despicable photo opportunity and saying the claims EQC had dropped the ball were wrong. But today, Mr Brownlee has changed his mind, admitting he feels let down by the Earthquake Commission. Mr Brownlee revealed Dot's Boyd case is just the tip of the iceberg. EQC identified a further 85 cases where vulnerable elderly had been left in limbo while waiting for a decision. Over 470,000 claims were lodged with EQC after the earthquakes. Prior to 2010, the Earthquake Commission had only planned for a large quake in Wellington to result in 150,000 claims.
It was all hands on deck during the flooding. The workers who've spent months on the roads ended up doing their best to protect the roads as water swept through.
The water's now mostly gone, but the damage is only just becoming clear. Stronger Christchurch infrastructure teams have spent the day tidying up and getting on where they left off before the storm slowed things down. Meanwhile, structural engineers working at the design hub of Skirt are now out working alongside the Christchurch City Council, inspecting retaining walls and bridges citywide, ensuring they're safe for the public. Skirt General Manager Duncan Gibb is praising his staff for their work during the flood. On Tuesday, with the storm showing no signs of abating, Skirt's traffic management teams were out ensuring sites were safely fenced with high winds and heavy rain in mind. The winds were so strong, some of these teams had the doors blown off their utes and trucks. Wednesday, with parts of the city underwater, Skirt's teams were available to help out Christchurch Hospital, ensuring the basement was pumped out and equipment was able to operate. Littleton's Canterbury Street, where a new Skirt retaining wall was completed last year, was one of the main channels for floodwater off the Port Hills. It was inspected by a Skirt structural engineer and found to be safe. Over the next few days, staff will continue assisting with the clean-up.
Coming up, the Restart Mall is on the move.
Kickoff is pure Bundesliga soccer, the real thing, featuring all the games, all the goals, every week. Kickoff, Sunday 12 noon, right here on CTV.
Omarino Wine Park, an award-winning vineyard conveniently located in Harewood Road, Christchurch, and handy to excellent hotels and motels. Our lovely new acoustically designed facilities enable us to provide you with a vibrant and unique venue set among the vines and park-like gardens. Whether it's a function for 20 or 200, we do our best to make your day very special. Book your wedding at Christchurch's newly established function and event venue, Omarino Wine Park.
Avoid the cowboys when it comes to relocating. Trust A1 Movers, a family business since 1993 that guarantees a professional job every time. We carefully handle and wrap your valued items, ensuring they have a safe journey. Secure storage and insurance options also available.
A1 Movers, the careful, caring, moving company.
Christchurch has its very own enchanted utopia, the Hitching Post. Pop in and see for yourself. A magical assortment of handmade creations, custom-made candles and artwork. Choose from our huge range of water features, garden art and imported giftware. Specialists in handcrafted metal artwork made in store. Nestled on 722 Marshlands Road, the Hitching Post, defining art our way.
Be immersed in the unique cultural highlights Germany has to offer every Tuesday night with Discover Germany. Tuesday at 7 p.m, right here on CTV.
Restart Mall fans, you're in for a treat. The government is promising to keep Christchurch's iconic mall open. Plans are afoot to move it to another central city location.
It's been a popular tourist attraction since October 2011. Restart Mall, the first part of the central city to reopen as a shopping precinct, following the devastating February earthquake. The Earthquake Recovery Minister has now announced it won't be closing anytime soon. Instead, it will shift onto a new site, where it will be based for at least the next 12 months. The new arrangement will see Restart Mall retailers located on the northern side of Cashel Mall move to a combination of Crown-owned and private land in the area of the retail precinct, bounded by Oxford Terrace, Cashel Street, Plymouth Lane and Litchfield Street. This will allow permanent retail precinct development to take place in the existing pop-up mall area. The Crown's granting just over $1.2 million to help with the move. Minister Jerry Brownlee says Restart Mall has become an icon for the recovery in Christchurch. Trading's due to end in the existing northern part of the mall in late April, and contractors will work to have the retailers operating from the new site as soon as possible. The majority of retailers were part of Restart when it first launched in 2011.
Construction of the first stage of the Central Plains Water Irrigation Scheme starts this week. Final funding arrangements are still being confirmed for the $140 million first stage of the development.
The whole area being irrigated sits between the Waimakariri and the Rakaia rivers. Stage 1 will be between the Rakaia and the Selwyn rivers. Lead contractors for the three-stage project that could end up costing $375 million were announced yesterday. The entire scheme boasts being the biggest irrigation construction project in the South Island, covering a total of 60,000 hectares. That's roughly 59,000 rugby fields. A joint venture between Fulton Hogan and John Holland, along with Downer Group, have been named as the lead contractors by the CPWL company. The Fulton Hogan-John Holland venture will construct the Headrace Canal and bridges for stage 1 of the development. Downers will build the pumping station and pipe distribution network, taking water onto farmland on the Canterbury Plains. Chief Executive Derek Crombie says a special general meeting of the Canterbury Plains Water Limited shareholders saw overwhelming support for the project to go ahead. About 99% of the company's 375 shareholders agreed on 2 major transaction resolutions allowing Stage 1 to proceed. The first special resolution allowed CPWL to secure debt funding of approximately $120 million from banks such as Westpac and ANZ. The second resolution was to push ahead with construction. The company is working towards finalising funding terms from the banks. As the project ramps up, there will be a monthly expenditure of $10 million.
Rolleston Port plans to build an inland port at Rolleston with a price tag of more than $20 million. The announcement yesterday follows a similar investment announced by rival Port of Tauranga, made in mid-January.
Rolleston Port's rival, Tauranga Port, is planning to build an inland port at Rolleston's iZone Industrial Park in order to pull exports and imports to its half-owned port in Timaru. Tauranga hopes to have its Rolleston land port open by the third quarter of 2014. Littleton's response in building a Rolleston land port of its own is a move to defend its turf. Canterbury freight companies and exporters are welcoming the competition forming between the 2 imminent inland port developments. Rolleston Port says it's conditionally bought 27 hectares adjacent to the main south rail line near Rolleston for the development of a second inland port. It currently has a depot in Woolston. Chief Executive Peter Davies says the total project, driven by customer demand, will cost the company more than $20 million. He says they've been looking at appropriate land for a few years, and they've finally found a place that's suitable. The site is within a couple of kilometres of the rival Port of Tauranga site. Freight companies are welcoming the increase in competition. Chief Executive of the NZ Trucking Association, David Boyce, welcomes the 2 hubs, saying it will be good for both local industry and transport operators.
Our new weekly regional roundup focuses on stories coming from North and South Canterbury.
North Canterbury escaped the brunt of the storm, with Rangiora and Kaiapoi suffering some isolated surface flooding that receded quickly this morning. However, it's bitterly cold and there is fresh snow on the mountains. Farmers with shorn sheep have put them into shelter. Dry conditions have affected the amount of feed available for stock, but there is plenty of supplementary feed available and green feed to ensure stock gets through the cold snap. This week, the news highlights opposition to the extraction of sand and gravel from Garties Road, Balcairn, concern by Canterbury mayors to the new requirements under the Local Government Act to propose changes around developer contributions, and work on Kaikolda's new integrated family health facility is about to start. It also highlights Floral Art North Canterbury's resounding success at the Ellerslie International Flower Show, along with West Arrowton School's success, and highlights the Harwood and AMP Show Association's pending show next week, and the donation of 2 new trophies, along with the YR Trail bike ride on March 22nd and 23rd. The southerly storm that battered Christchurch and central Canterbury left mid and south Canterbury virtually unscathed. It brought coastal hail and driving rain on Tuesday and overnight Wednesday, but no roads were closed or services affected. Ashburton's The Courier has a heartwarming story about a group of young men who give up their weekends to work on the vast array of old machines at the Plains Museum in Tynwald. It details a proposed 7.4% rise in the overall rate requirement for Ashburton District Council and tells how community and church groups are celebrating good neighbours in mid-Canterbury. Details of increased power distribution costs are also covered, and a tougher approach for several council-funded agencies is also signalled. The paper also has a story about a fruit project for children, a win for a local landscape architect, and a reunion plan for staff of the former Tika knitwear factory. For more, see The Courier today.
And for more on these stories, as you heard Patrick say, see today's edition of the Ashburton Courier for stories from the Ashburton district, and the News for stories from the North Canterbury area. Still to come, we have the business, traffic and weather updates.
Drive It takes us on a ride to showcase the new arrivals to the motoring sphere, comparing and testing the latest models to discover the best. Drive It, Sunday afternoons at 12:30, right here on CTV. Avoid the cowboys when it comes to relocating. Trust A1 Movers, a family business since 1993 that guarantees a professional job every time. We carefully handle and wrap your valued items, ensuring they have a safe journey. Secure storage and insurance options also available.
A1 Movers, the careful, caring, moving company.
At Lamb & Haywood, we're committed to providing you with the very best environment at your time of greatest need. You can choose from the best facilities in Canterbury, our recently refurbished West Park Chapel, the Kerrs Road Chapel in Eastern Christchurch, or perhaps Waimana Chapel in Rangiora. However you remember, commemorate or celebrate the life of your loved one, whether it's an intimate group or a grand send-off, the choice is yours. Lamb & Haywood, a tradition of caring.
Is this your year to upgrade your existing interior? Then head into Bathroom and Flooring Warehouse for the latest styles in European vanities, showers and baths, all at affordable prices. Bathroom and Flooring Warehouse also stock a large selection of carpets and vinyl for all your flooring needs. To view our full range, head into 159 Waterloo Road, Hornby, or visit bathroomandflooring.co.nz.
Join us tonight at 6 for DW World News. Informative, lively, international news, breaking stories and global developments. DW News, weekdays at 6 p.m, right here on CTV.
Here's this week's business update with Warren Head.
Hi everybody, I'm Warren Head from headliner.co.nz. As I was going to the studio, I picked up the latest prognostications from the ANZ Bank, and again it was just a raft of good things happening in terms of the national economy, and they're picking a 3% growth rate. The thing I spotted for you folks at home is that they're picking about 3 small increases in the interest rates sometime later this year. At the moment, all the events of this week we've sailed through in terms of the New Zealand dollar, Russian Crimean crises aside, our currency is up at about 83, 84 cents, and what that means in terms of interest rates is that's buffering off inflation coming into New Zealand, and it's likely just to temper things in terms of interest rate increases for a little while longer. On the local front, I'm at the point where I'm about to renew my home insurance, so I'm just going through that exercise at the moment. Difficult to know where to start. The little exercise book I'm working through says your home insurance is changing and it's moving to sum assured. So I've just been working through that, or rather my wife has been, and she's been doing a good job in that respect. And it's up in just about every area. And we still think we're probably underestimating in terms of what we might put down in terms of the property. One thing I think I've missed out on, and I should have thought about it looking at the weather yesterday, the garden shed, which is pretty brand new and pride of my eye, and the fences, they're all still standing, but I bet across town a lot of them aren't. And of course you need to look at those when you're calculating your insurance. On the retail front today, 2 big results out. Briscoe Group, a really nice result, a $33 million result for the year. Rob Duke, the Managing Director there, has done a great job in moving this company forward, and what he said were challenging times for all the retailers. He's not convinced that this economic boom is getting down to street level. I'm sure you'd agree with that at home. And he's had to discount off with very aggressive promotions to get this result. So that's knocked his gross margin around a bit. That's why the buying's been really good at Briscoe's over the last summer. And the biggie that came out today, Warehouse Group, we expected that to be a little lower, but it's still group sales for the first half of the year, 1,420 million, 1,420 million, and Red Sheds alone pulled in $920 million worth of sales. So going okay, still changing, reshaping the company, and one of the big announcements they made today was they're going into financial services. Having taken over Noel Leeming a little while back now, they figured that they've now got the scale to have a significant financial services business. We don't have the details yet, but they started out today by buying Diners Card. Diners Club is a well-established brand, and that's the New Zealand office of that is coming into this new setup by the Warehouse Group. So I look forward to more details about that and see if there's anything good in the lining there for all of us. I'm Warren Head for headliner.co.nz.
If you're driving around the central city, CTV's traffic update will assist you navigating the repairs taking place.
Hello Christchurch. To help you plan your journey around the central city, here's an update on major roadworks. Madras Street is down to one lane from Morehouse Ave to Allen Street. And also between Worcester Street and Oxford Terrace, you can expect peak time delays through here. This week we suggest using Montreal Street and Fitzgerald Avenue when travelling north through the city. A reminder, during this week major works start on Barbados Street, around the St Asaph Street intersection. This will reduce Barbados down to one lane. Using Fitzgerald Avenue and Manchester Street when heading south will help you avoid delays this week. Keep watching CTV News first at 5 for the latest information, or check out the Transport for Christchurch website for any updates.
After the welcome sight of blue sky and sunshine, let's see whether it will last with our regional weather.
Kia ora everyone. An anticyclone is extending over New Zealand today, but a weakening cold front will approach the South Island tomorrow. Kaikoura, a fine Friday in store for you with plenty of sunshine and northeasterly breezes. Tonight's low is at 8, tomorrow's high 20 degrees. Is looking fine and sunny with light winds. Expect a low of 7 tonight, but look forward to a high of 22 degrees tomorrow. Rangiora Kaipoi, a fine and mild day ahead out your way with plenty of sunshine and northeasterly winds expected. Tonight's low 8, tomorrow's high 20 degrees. Christchurch, a fine and sunny day in store for you with some high cloud later on. Northeasterlies will be developing. Tonight a low of 8, tomorrow's high 19 degrees. Ashburton, cool this evening with a low of 8 degrees overnight, but you can expect pleasant temperatures tomorrow with the usual northeasterly winds. Tomorrow's high at 20 degrees. A fine Friday down in Timaru tomorrow with plenty of sunshine and northeasterly breezes. Tonight's low 8 degrees, tomorrow's high at 20. In other areas now, Friday is looking good for all our outer areas tomorrow, although some cloud expected in Arthur's Pass and Greymouth. The high going to Culverden at 23 degrees. Looking ahead for Canterbury, light southwesterly winds developing on Saturday morning with sunny periods and some cloud. Showers at first on Sunday morning, then clearing, but skies remaining cloudy and temperatures cold, with moderate southerly winds decreasing during the day. That's your weather for Friday. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well, it's great to see the weather will be good right through to the end of the week. Well, that's CTV News for Thursday. I'm Grant Mangan. Good night.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.